Hello everyone, this is SuperTal3 here, and welcome back to episode 3 of my Python for Beginners series. In this episode, I'm going to teach you how to use the input function in Python to get a user's input and how to properly format that in Python 3 because it's not as simple as it was in Python 2, and also how to document your code within your code so that way when you're working with team members, they can easily see what you've done, or when you're looking back at old code, you can see what you did so that you don't have to go and figure out the code all over again. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and open up your favorite code editor. I'll go ahead and open my projects folder with Visual Studio Code. Now I just made a quick folder for all my Python projects in this series. You can feel welcome to do that if you so wish. I'm going to make a new Python file and just go ahead and save it. It's a blank file right now. Save it in here as what was my naming convention? Episode 3. IN will do IT CM, standing for input and comments. There we go. Now it's properly formatted as a Python file. So really quick, we'll go ahead and make a variable. We'll just call this var1 and we'll assign it a blank string value. Then we'll create a value called var2 and we'll assign it the value of 0. And then down here we'll do print var. We'll say this is your var1's value as entered by the user. And then right here we'll do plus var1, and then over here we'll do this is your var2's value as entered by the user, colon space. And then notice really quick from our last video, I'll go ahead and show you that file. We had to format our integers and convert those to a string so that we can append them to a string. So I have to do the same in this video. We'll do str to convert our int, which is var2, to a string. Do var2, that way we can print. Okay, there we go. So in Python, I'll go ahead and I'll show you comments first, and then we'll get into the if statement, which isn't that hard. It's actually really easy, but I just wanted to go ahead and show you it so that I can explain some things that are different in Python 3 versus Python 2, and a few problems that you might run into while using your if statements. So comments in Python are designated by a hashtag or a pound symbol. In other languages such as C, single line comments at least are designated by 2 slashes, while multi-line is a slash, asterisk, and then asterisk slash. And in C-based languages that allows you to do comments like that, but in Python you only have the single line as far as I'm aware, which is the hashtag or pound symbol. And this is useful for documenting your code. So right here you could do like printing users input back out to them in a fancy way, because that's basically all we're doing. And you can even do it, I believe, on the same line like this, as long as it's after. And as you notice, the syntax highlighting easily lets you figure that out. So you can do first variable, which is a string, and then second variable, which is an integer. Okay, and then right here you could even put a note if you were pseudo-coding this. Pseudo-code is where you do comments and you outline what your program's going to do and kind of get the ideas out in your head on comments, but no actual code, so you don't have to worry about syntax errors while you're conceptualizing your program and laying out the foundation for how it's going to work. That's really helpful for when you're doing more complicated programs. Like in this one C++ class I did on StraighterLine, actually, I did a lot of pseudocode to help me think through my program that I was making for the assignment. It was a really good course, by the way, so I do recommend you go check Straighter Line's Introduction to Programming. It's their C++ course. It can get you college credit depending on where you go. It's like, I think at $99 for the month, and then like another $60 for the course. But if you're looking into anything like dual enrollment, definitely go check that out. I'm not sponsored by them in any way. I'm just telling you, it was a very fun course to take. So yeah, I do recommend that. But anyway, so if you're doing something like pseudocoding here, you might say print var2 output format var2 as string, like that. And then, so anyway, that's comments, and they're very useful. If someone else, say this was a really complicated program, and you were working on a team project, and someone else needed to add some stuff to your code, if they just came in there and saw a whole bunch of really complicated code, they might be like, what does this do? And then spend like the next 2 hours figuring out what it does. Whereas if you comment everything out and provide good explanations of how your program works, then they can just go in and read those and be like, okay, this is how it works. This is where I need to add my code or fix this change because this was a bug or whatnot. But anyway, now we'll make a section. We'll say get users input for var1. And since we'll go ahead and do the input function right here. So you just type input parentheses and then colon, and here this is where you put your prompt. So we'll say input a string. We'll do of your choice to make it sound like a game. Now if we did this wouldn't do anything. I mean, it would get the user's input, but it wouldn't actually do anything because it's not storing the value anywhere. So we need to assign the value of the user's input to our variable, put that in our bucket, as you will, by saying var1 is now equal to whatever the user inputs after the prompt. And now instead of, we'll go ahead and we'll do the second one, then we'll say get users input for var2. And we'll do var2 is equal to input a number of your choice for a mathematical calculation. And we'll just run a quick little calculation on this number. We'll say var2 times 3. Actually, the proper way to do this is say var2. So the new version of var2 is equal to the old version of var2 times 3 plus 4. Actually, let's do this. We'll do parentheses for order of operations, var2 plus 4, and we'll do times 3. I'll go ahead and run this program. Let's type Python ep3. There we go, and I just did tab and auto completed. Input a string of my choice. I'll just do supertal3 because that is a string, and we'll put 4 in. Boom, right there, we get an error. Why am I not surprised? Well, because I have encountered this error before, and it's an error you will encounter in more complicated programs if you're not careful. That's why I'm going ahead and showing you how to do inputs instead of just letting you figure that out on your own, because there can be some complications when using them. So in Python 2, they had two versions of input. They had the normal input, and then they had raw input. And raw input just got the user's information. It just got the user's information as a string because it's just plain. It didn't bother figuring out what their input was and formatting it or anything. I was just adding some documentation right there. And when they made Python 3, when they updated it to Python 3, they basically took out Python 2's old input statement, and they decided, let's just keep raw input and rename it to input. And that kind of messed some things up. So there's a quick, easy fix for that, like we did over here when we formatted it to a string. this is actually already a string, so we don't have to worry about that. But we reformatted it because we'll go ahead right here, and since this gets a number as a string, this is an integer, but it changes the type of it right here when it changes to a string. We want this to be an integer because we are doing calculations with it, so we'll specify the type by doing int. Okay, an int in parentheses, and then another parentheses around that. And if you go back and you run your program again, everything will work. Supertal3, and we'll just do 4. var2's value as entered by the user is 24, and var1's value as entered by the user is supertal3. Actually, we should change this prompt to say, this is var2, your var2's value after the calculation. We'll just do, let's see, x plus 4 times 3, and we'll do like extra quotation marks in there just to, like, you know, make it look good for the user, was performed. We run that supertal3, and we'll do 4 this time. Okay, we did 4 last time actually. Whatever. This is your var2 value after the calculation. X plus 4 times 3 was performed, and it's 24. There we go. Alright, so in this lesson we learned about how to use comments and document your code so that other people can easily understand it, or you yourself can understand it if you're coming back after a long time and you don't really remember what your program did. Comments are an excellent way of documenting your code. I highly recommend that you always use comments in even the most simplest of programs, as it helps keep your code neat and makes it easier for other people to use. We also covered input statements and how to properly format those inputs that we get from the user, so that when we're asking for an integer, it actually is an integer and it doesn't read it as a string. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell icon that will pop up right next to that, so that you're notified every time I release a new episode in this Python for Beginners series. Look forward to some future videos just coming out in several days about, I think the next one is going to be for loops, and then we'll have functions, arrays, lists, dictionaries, all that sort of good stuff that you'll be using whenever you make more complicated programs. Thank you for watching. This is supertal3 signing out.